Hi guys, the Conservatives complaining about prisoners being released early and the risk of them reoffending is a bit like an arsonist throwing a hissy fit over water damage the fire brigade have done. The Tories were in power for 14 years. During that time, they refused to hire sufficient levels of police officers to deal with crime. They refused to improve police-community relations, which would help members of the public report crime and help in prevention. They refused to build and upgrade enough prisons to hold criminals, and they refused to invest in rehabilitation and the probation service to stop reoffending. And finally, they refused to fund a justice system when it came to putting people away. Now they want another crack at it.
When dangerous criminals with up to 100 convictions are being released early from our prisons, when they're being met by champagne corks, when some have already reoffended, you know that something is going deeply wrong with our criminal justice system. I'm not going to defend how we got here, but set out what we do next. We need to deport the 10,000 foreign criminals in our prisons.
It's not as simple as that, and here we are once again with the simple solutions to complex problems. It's not as simple as just picking people up, taking them out of prison, and sending them to another country. There's an appeals process that needs to be respected. There's a system in place. See, once again, we have these simple solutions to complex problems. The Tories are not actually interested in dealing with the problems that they have created. And I predicted this would happen. They leave the country in a disaster. The new government comes in to try and fix things, and they sit on the sidelines sniping, saying, you're doing it wrong, you should do it this way. You should do it our way. Once again, he's not interested in actually dealing with the problem. He's only interested in providing simple solutions that will sound good.
And bar them from ever coming here again.
How do you do that? How do you bar them from coming back in? See, you need to work with the European Union. You need to work with Europol. You need to work with European countries. But as Brexiteers, you don't want to do that. No, we're going to do it our way. We're going to go it alone.
We need to recognise that 52% of crimes are committed by just 9% of criminals.
This is only for the government's benefit. We're all being released. Most of us will be back within 28 days.
And why will these people be back within 28 days? Because there isn't a proper fit-for-purpose probation service. Because the Tories refuse to fund it. There isn't a mechanism for people to be rehabilitated. There's nowhere for them to go. I covered it in a live stream where there was a guy who's saying, look, I'm out. I don't have a job lined up. I have no prospects for the future. I'm going to try and avoid returning to prison, but I probably will be back in a very short period of time because there's no mechanism in place. There used to be a mechanism. It used to be fully funded, but when the Conservatives took over, they decided, actually, we're not going to fund the probation service sufficiently. We're not going to focus on stopping people from reoffending. We're more interested in just punishing people, creating laws just to punish people, but we're not actually interested in rehabilitation or stopping people from reoffending.
If we build more prisons and lock up more career criminals, crime will fall.
No. Building more prisons will not reduce crime. How could building more prisons and locking up more people reduce crime? In many ways, crime is a symptom of poverty. If you deal with poverty, you will reduce crime. Now, are the Tories interested in reducing poverty? Of course not. So they're more interested in punishing people than actually lifting people out of poverty. They're more interested in pretending that they're going to build prisons and upgrade prisons, when in reality we've seen over the last number of years that they have dragged their feet on this issue.
That's my vision. Labour want fewer criminals going to jail and...
How do they want fewer prisoners or criminals going to jail? Look, in a sense, it would make more sense for fewer criminals to go to jail if there are people who are not a risk to society. What's the point in sending people to prison if the crimes they have committed are not violent, for example? If some people can be monitored in the community, if people can do some sort of community service, it would make more sense than sending them to prison. Because sending them to prison where there's no rehabilitation system in place is not going to fix any problems.
Criminals being released, skipping the queue for social housing.
Okay, this is an interesting story where they said that prisoners should jump the queue for housing. Look, if there are people released from prison, I don't know if this story is true or not, but if there are people being released from prison, they need to go somewhere. If they end up on the street, what happens then? They get back into their criminal ways, and then they get arrested, and then they're put back into prison. It's more expensive to keep people in prison than to provide them with housing. And keeping people in prison where there's no chance of them being rehabilitated doesn't make a lot of sense. So while politically it may not sound good providing ex-cons with housing, it's actually cheaper for the taxpayer.
This madness won't lead to the safer Britain we need.
Once again, these charlatans, these arsonists who burnt down the forest or burnt down the house, are now asking, look, give us the matches again, because the people who are trying to put out the fire are not doing a very good job. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.